Well, hello, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Coffee with Stephen. So this week's blog is entitled Pathologically Law-Abiding Citizens. And if you've ever taken a CCW course with me or any of my legal, presentations, you've probably heard me use that phrase before. People will come to me and they'll ask me questions on the law. And they're deathly afraid of violating anything. And they want to know how to be a, law-abiding citizen. By the way, this is admirable, okay? We want people that are focused on being good members of society. Obviously, it creates a functional, body politic. What is interesting, though, is how people put different sort of gradations on what they're willing to follow and what they're not willing to follow. Somebody driving to Artemis may very well have felt comfortable driving at 10 miles over the speed limit, may very well have felt comfortable doing a California stop at the stop sign up on North Point as they were making their right-hand turn. These laws, they're willing to go ahead and sort of slough off a little bit. But when it comes to, firearms laws or things like that, they want, specific behavioral codes. So in the blog this week, I use one of my little sort of literary iterations with a conversation between myself and Sandy set in sort of like a, 1940s film noir type thing because, that's just the way I am. But it's a conversation that we're having about a consultation that I had with a client. Okay. Now, obviously, I didn't want to, divulge any attorney-client privileged communications or anything like that. But the client did tell me a story about how his grandmother had essentially engaged in criminal conduct back in Austria when her family was being rounded up and sent to a concentration camp. Now, as a direct result of her criminal conduct, this client's father and client's aunt ended up surviving the war. His grandmother and grandfather perished at Auschwitz. But it was that criminal conduct that I really wanted to focus on because we've conflated following certain laws with having sort of a moral validation attached to that, right? I need to do this because it's morally required that I act in a certain way. Well, in this particular instance, the conduct that the client's grandmother had engaged in was more likely than not criminal. Okay. Now, it wasn't barbarous or anything like that. She had engaged in what effectively was bribery of a public official, but it was illegal nonetheless. And yet none of us would look at that and say, oh, well, it was immoral what she did. After all, it was a Nazi regime. Well, so when does moral adherence to the law suddenly become immoral? Right? Is it depending upon which government happens to be in power at any given time or anything like that? These are interesting questions that need to be pondered. Anyways, I do hope you read the blog this week. As always, if you'd like to get in touch with me, you know how to do so. You can reply directly on the blog or email me at stephen@artemishq.com. And as always, train constantly, train consistently, train repetitively, and train with purpose. Above all else, stay safe.